G'day Flow fans, Nick here from Flow Mountain Bike. We are here at Medina Bike Park, and this time round we have the Cube Stereo 177 Hybrid HPC on test. It's chunky, it's burly, I am not that, but let's run through the details and see how I've been living with it over the past 2 months. The last year or so has seen some epic bikes hit the market, such as the Gen 4 Specialized Levo, the Santa Cruz Vala and Bullet, and the Amflow PL Carbon, which the internet gremlins won't stop talking about, and rightly so. It's an impressive bike. Things had been a little bit quiet from Cube, however. The brand's lineup was lacking a long travel eMTB for the roughest terrain, and this is where the 177 Hybrid comes in. And it says goodbye to the older Hybrid 160, which was still rolling on dual 27.5-inch wheels. All right, so what's new with the Cube Stereo Hybrid 177 HPC? Long story short, it's all new. Stereo 177 is the brand's long travel enduro bike, the regular analog bike. Hybrid part of the name on this one denotes that this one is the e-bike variant. Got a mixed wheel platform, so 29 up front, 27.5 in the back. Carbon fiber front triangle, aluminium out back, and delivers 170mm of travel with the FSP 4-link suspension design, paired with a 170mm fork in the front. So as I said, this guy is powered by the Bosch Performance Line CX Gen 5 motor, paired with the Bosch PowerTube 800 watt-hour battery. The 800 watt-hour battery is housed within the down tube with a hatch on the bottom which is removable, and then the battery comes out once you've got the ABUS key to unlock it. So the bike came delivered with the 85 Newton meters of torque and 600 watts of peak power that the Gen 5 was first released with. Bosch have since released a software update which boosts the torque to 100 Newton meters and the power to 750 watts. And it also comes with a new e-MTB Plus mode, which adds 400% rider assistance, which is essentially like a dynamic version of turbo mode. So paired with the Bosch drive unit is the Bosch Purion 400 display, which has all of the data at your fingertips. It's controlled by the Bosch wireless mini remote, which is on the handlebars. And on the top tube, we have the older style LED light bar display. The top tube is compatible with the new Kiox 400 LED display though, which you'd need to buy aftermarket. Reach measurements aren't anything out of the norm, with a size large going for a 475mm reach. All sizes have a 64.4 degree head angle, which is relatively conservative for this style of long travel bike. All sizes also have a 76.5 degree seat tube angle and a 443mm chainstay. The head angle is the only adjustment which this bike has. So you flip the cups around 180 degrees, so it goes from the moderate setting, those are the numbers I mentioned before, to a slack setting, which drops the head angle to 63.8 and steepens the seat tube by 0.2 degrees. As for price and specs, there are 5 different models in the lineup, which start at 7,499 Australian dollars and go all the way up to 15,999 Australian dollars for the top tier SLT model. Our test bike here is the TM model, which is the middle of the lineup and retails for 10,999 Australian dollars. The build kit on this guy is from all across the globe. It's got Fox Performance suspension, a 38 up front and an X2 in the rear, a SRAM GX transmission drivetrain, Magura MT7 brakes, and Newman aluminium wheels. All models share the same carbon front triangle, aluminium rear triangle, and they all use the same Bosch Performance Line CX Gen 5 motor and the 800 watt-hour battery, and there aren't any options to run the smaller 600 watt-hour battery from the factory. So I am 188 centimeters tall, and we've opted for a size XL here, which has a 505mm reach, a 661mm stack height, 1297mm wheelbase, and that's all in the moderate setting. The stock bike comes with a 50mm stem, but I replaced that for a 40mm stem for the majority of testing. I also ran the bike in the moderate head angle setting, which has the 64.4 degree head tube angle for the majority of testing, and didn't really feel the need to throw it in the slack setting. To keep the Cube a little bit more versatile, I think the majority of folks will prefer it in that moderate setting. The only other thing we did to the setup was install a Tubolite Diamana tyre insert in the rear, just to protect the back wheel from dents and pinch flats on the trail, just given the, I guess, heels down and plow kind of style of bike that this is. All right, so for suspension setup, I ran 91 PSI in the Fox 38 up front. From stock, it came with 3 volume spacers, which I found far too progressive. I bumped that down to 1 volume spacer, which I found still super supple at the start, but I was able to use all the travel when I needed it. In the rear, I ran 210 PSI, and that gave me about 29% sag. I was able to use full travel reasonably frequently on larger hits, but more pressure would take away from that supple feel. You could look at volume spacers, and I think heavier riders might want to, but for me, I found it fine as it was from stock. All the suspension settings that I landed on after 2 months of testing are in the full written review, so head over to flowmountainbike.com to check that out. So weight-wise, the 177 Hybrid in the extra large size that we have weighed in at 23.96 kilos, and as usual, that is without pedals, set up tubeless, and without the tyre insert that I've now got in there. It's definitely not a light bike, but being realistic, it is in the ballpark compared to other long travel e-bikes on the market. Will had the Trek Rail Plus on test recently in a size large, and that weighed in at 24 kilos on the knocker, and that had the exact same battery and motor and retailed for 11,999 Australian dollars. Will and Dan also had the Santa Cruz Bullet on test recently, which weighed in at a hair under 22 kilos. That has the same motor, but the smaller 600 watt-hour battery, which is around a kilo lighter. That bike also retailed for 17,499 Australian dollars, so it was a lot more expensive. First thing I really liked about the Cube 177 Hybrid was the overall geometry package. It's got a dialed reach, I really like the tall stack, and the relatively conservative head angle. Feels really good when you're pointing down really steep trails and you feel really locked in on the bike. If anyone's ever watched Loic Bruni ride a bike, he's really sort of centered and strong. His body basically doesn't move. I'm not going to say I can ride like Loic Bruni, but there was instances where I kind of felt like I could, which gives you this really good confidence-inspiring kind of feeling when you're riding the bike. Second thing I really liked about the Cube was the suspension feel out back. It's definitely biased towards being super supple and giving you heaps of traction, which is really good for this sort of style of bike. It is not as supportive as some other bikes in this category, but it's super soft, really gooey, and it just soaks up all of those big hits with ease. Next thing is the Bosch Performance Line CX Gen 5 motor. This thing is just insane. It's got heaps of power, the delivery is smooth, it's relatively quiet, and you've got heaps of control with the Flow app to tailor how you want the bike to sort of deliver that power. We did the Bosch software update, which boosted the Gen 5 motor up to 100 Newton meters of torque and 750 watts of power, which gave the bike a bunch of extra pep on the climbs, especially when you're boosting up nasty fire roads, and sort of leveled the playing field against the Avanox motor and the Specialized 3.1 motor. The new eMTB Plus mode is also an excellent addition. It's kind of like turbo mode mushed with the older eMTB dynamic mode, and the power delivery is far more intuitive and smooth compared to the old turbo mode. Turbo mode is still there if you want to use it, but I found myself opting just to stick with eMTB Plus. I do think it is still too much power if you are climbing tight technical single track. I would have never have done that in turbo mode to start with because it's really easy to spit you off the track, and this is the same, but it is an excellent addition if you are wanting to navigate tighter sections of trail but want that power. All right, things that the Cube 177 Hybrid struggle with. It's a big bike, there's no two ways around that. With the long travel, the gooey suspension, and the 24 kilos of heft, it is a big bike to get around the corners. I did find myself needing to do very exaggerated body movements, especially when cornering, to get it to bite into the dirt and rip around those corners. But it does need a strong, assertive pilot to get this thing moving. Next, the gooey suspension is epic when you're on the rough terrain, but it definitely does sap away from any input energy when you're sort of trying to pump and generate speed on more mellow terrain. I found I had to be really conscious of safety braking on those faster, flowier kind of trails, so I wouldn't sap away any speed, because if you were still above that 25 km/h speed limit, it's really hard to get that speed back unless you've got gravity on your side. For the category of bike, I do think Cube nailed the suspension feel, but I think riders need to be conscious and honest with the terrain that they have when choosing between, say, the 177 or, say, the smaller sibling being the 144 hybrid. The other thing I don't like is the headset cable routing. I don't want to sound like a broken record, but I think this is something that should be banished from mountain bikes, especially e-bikes. I think it definitely has its place on gravel bikes and road bikes, but I think it doesn't really add anything to the bike, and it just is a bit of a pain to work on. With the big 800 watt-hour battery, the 177 hybrid is ready for some lengthy rides. On average, I managed to clock around 2.4 vertical meters of elevation per watt-hour of battery, and that was in eMTB mode. If you bring that out across the full battery, that's about 1900 meters of climbing on a single charge. How far you get on the 800 watt-hour battery will depend on a range of factors, including terrain, your weight, tire pressure, all that kind of stuff, but 1900 meters is roughly what I would get out of the battery. As for components on the TM model we've got here, the Newman wheels were super solid. I can't say that I rode these that lightly, and they've performed without a flinch, no dints, no wobbles, the spokes are tight, they've been really good. The Magura MT7s, I got along really well with these brakes. I really like the ergonomics of the lever, the bite point's super solid, really consistent. I did find them a little bit underpowered for this sort of style of bike, so on really steep terrain I could get them really hot pretty quickly and they would fade, and I think it could do with some slightly stronger brakes. The tyre combination was also really good. The Magic Mary up front is excellent. It's a really predictable tyre, got great cornering traction. I would prefer it if it was the new radial casing and the softer compound of rubber, but you can obviously change that out once you purchase the bike. The Taki Chan in the rear would be better as a summer tyre. I'm in the midst of winter, so it wasn't ideal, but it still is fairly good for an all-round tyre. I also found the paint on the 177 hybrid quite thin. I very quickly wore through the outer paint primer and down to bare metal on the chainstay where my left heel would rub. And I also got a random chip on the head tube, and I hadn't even touched the headset before that part. I'm a big advocate for ride wrapping bikes, and I think this is an excellent candidate for that. I did have a few little issues with the 177 hybrid throughout the last 2 months, one relating to the crank and the other with the Bosch Performance Line CX motor when I was doing the software update. All of those details are in the full written review, so head over to flowmountainbike.com to check that out. So the verdict on the 177 hybrid, Cube have churned out an excellent performing long travel eMTB. It doesn't flinch when pointed down the roughest terrain, it's super stable, really confident, and it's got bucket loads of traction right when you need it. And that suspension is super soft and gooey. It's a well executed machine and poses excellent value with well performing parts. I also think it's the best looking Cube e-bike to date. That's my own opinion. Let me know what you think in the comments. So that's it for our video review of the Cube Stereo 177 Hybrid HPC. Head over to flowmountainbike.com for the full written review and let us know in the comments if you're considering the 177 Hybrid for your next eMTB or if you have any other questions. You've been watching Flow Mountain Bike. My name is Nick. Peace out.